Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Wherever you are joining from, I welcome you to Crack the Wellness Code's webinar series. Today, we're going to talk about how to manage gut health, immunity with dietary wellness best practices. This is a series sponsored in cooperation with ICC Wellness and Thai Global by Crack the Wellness Code. My name is Praveen Nara. I'm moderating the event today. So I see that people are still joining. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a quick little video for you all to get familiar with Crack the Wellness Code movement by ICC Wellness. And it's a 2-minute video. And as soon as the video is done, I'm going to come back and present the panelists. Here you go. Okay, I hope you all got a little bit gist about Crack the Wellness Code movement. And I see that a lot of people have joined in. We had one of the highest number of people registering in for this event from all over the globe, actually. We have people from India, we have people from America, we have people from Europe and other places too. So before we get started, here is the topic of today. Today, we are talking about managing your gut health and immunity with dietary and wellness best practices. And this series, for those of you who just joined, it's a series of webinars organized by Crack the Wellness Code in collaboration with ICC's Wellness Movement and Thai Global. Our goal with this series is to bring really valuable wellness insights for entrepreneurs specifically. And we have a great list of panelists today, along with the chair of Thai Global, Mahavir Sharma, whom I'll introduce in just a little bit. So before we move on, today, you're going to learn about immunity and gut biome health. And this, you're not going to do by taking medicine or pills. You're going to do this by better wellness and dietary practices. And we have put together a team of panelists who share with you only evidence-based information. This is not philosophy. This is like hype. This is not just speculation. It's evidence-based, tested and proven system. And we are also bringing in the therapies both from the Western world and Eastern world and giving you the best of the both worlds. And it's not just this event. We have many events on Crack the Wellness website. You can go to crackthewellnesscode.org/all events. We have events for seniors, we have events for youngsters, we have events for entrepreneurs. We also have events that are happening locally. This is not just a webinar, it's a movement. And our goal with this movement is to improve and enhance the lives of all of us here today. And this is the 42nd free online session. So we had a ton of information shared with the audience already. And the Crack the Wellness Code moment was started by Naren Bakshi and also Som and other people. And in last 2 years, they added a lot of value with several online sessions. And again, this is a nonprofit. So please donate generously at crackthewellnessscore.org/donate. So today, quickly talking about agenda. First, we have two top-notch experts talking about gut microbiome. I'll introduce them as they come on. And then we'll have audience Q&A. We encourage you to ask as many questions as we can because we'd like to make this an interactive session and serve you. So the better we know about your questions, the concerns, the topics of your interest, the better we are able to answer those questions for you and also put together programs for the future to come. And then we'll have a healthy cooking recipe by Gayathri Schoenberg, a nutritionist. And finally, we'll have yoga by Dr. Sachin Deshmukh and flute by Dan Magan. So before we move on, I just need to share this disclaimer and waiver of liability. So you can read the whole thing, but basically it says that this is an education-based information. We are not establishing a doctor-patient relationship with this, and take all of this with a grain of salt. So I'll let you read this, and then we will move on to panel discussions. Thank you. With that, let me introduce our panelists. First and foremost, I'd like to invite Mahavir Sharma, Chair of Thai Global, to say a few words. To give you a little bit background about Mahavir Sharma, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's been part of many businesses and social organizations. He is passionate about angel investing, leadership, and mentoring. He currently holds many key positions. I would not be able to talk about all of them, but I'll share with you the top three. He's a chairman of Thai Global Board of Trustees. He's a co-founder and chairman of RAIN, Rajasthan Angel Innovator Network. And he's also chairman of Thai India Angels, an initiative by Thai Global, among many other things. Mahavir Sharma, please take over.
Thank you, Praveen. Good evening, everyone in the US. Good morning, bright Sunday morning in India. Good morning, everyone. I think this is a great initiative that Thai Global is proud to be partnering with ICC Crack the Wellness Code team. Third in the series. I have learned a lot in the last two panel discussions and sessions. I think I'm looking forward, and we are looking forward to more learning on what we should not eat to improve our health. I mean, we as entrepreneurs have always neglected our health in the pursuit of travels or work or long work hours. I think now is the time that we've started to look inward, and this pandemic has tried to create that situation and opportunity for all of us to do. It's a great opportunity. I think we are looking forward to this session. Thank you, the CWC team at ICC once again. Look forward to this session. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you. So now let me introduce Dr. Imran Junaid. He will talk about gut microbiome. Dr. Junaid is a board certified in internal medicine, allergy, immunology, and obesity medicine. He serves as CEO of Jiva Health, a leading multidisciplinary integrative medical practice in the East Bay. He's also a CMO of Digby Health, a leading precision digital therapeutic company utilizing microbiome and DNA analysis to improve health outcomes for numerous people. Dr. Junaid, please take over.
Great. Are you presenting, Praveen, or do you want me to present the PowerPoint?
You can present it.
Got it.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Praveen, for moderating this session, and to the Cracking the Wellness team for inviting me to talk about microbiome. This is a really big topic, and I'm going to try to summarize sort of the highlights of what the microbiome is, what affects the microbiome, and how we should be approaching improving our health when it comes to the microbiome. So, we have had a human-centric approach throughout our history, where we believe that we were unique individuals, that our DNA is better than others and our species is more superior on this planet. But what we are learning is that we are actually a common form of multiple organisms that occupy this body, and we need all of the pieces together, the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, and our own DNA and cells to function appropriately. So the shift has gone from the perfect man, i.e. the Leonardo Vitruvius man, to a more holistic approach. And to kind of dive in deeper, we are really a superorganism here, where there are roughly about 10 trillion human cells with about 23,000 genes that express in those cells. Yet there are greater than 100 trillion bacterial cells, viral or fungal cells that cohabit with us. And those cells encompass over 3 million genes so far and counting. Just as a highlight, the microbiome was not a thing that was very much in the popular press or even in science appreciated as much until the last 20 years. And now every single scientific society is pushing heavily for us to look deeper into how those diseases affect the microbiome and how the microbiome affects those diseases. So we truly live in a balance between our cells and the microbiome, and that balance leads to health, or if there's chronic inflammation, can lead to disease. There are many things that these bacteria that cohabit with us affect. They affect the production of vitamin K and other vitamins in our body. The bacteria produce these so that we can absorb them. And if they're not present, that can throw off our own physiology. They affect our bone health. With inadequate bacteria, you don't convert enough calcium to absorbable calcium, which leads to osteoporosis down the line. They affect cardiac disease. There are certain bacteria that are present that convert tyrosine to the other cofactors, which lead to atherogenesis, or plaque formation in the arteries of our heart and our neck, which predispose us to heart disease or stroke. And a common theme across the way is this pandemic, not the COVID one, but the obesity pandemic that we all suffer from. Almost 50+% of people are obese in this country at this point. And what we're learning is that bacteria that reside in your gut, the ones that help break down the food, can make it easier for us to develop obesity or not. And so all of these factors are important, and the bacteria that are there are important.
Absolutely, they are. And Dr. Junaid, we are seeing the first slide. So if you wanted to advance, I just wanted to remind you.
Oh, I have advanced it. Hopefully you have been following along. Let me see if I can restart this. Can you see the second slide?
We still see the first slide.
I apologize. I wish, let me try just sharing the whole screen. Okay. Okay, hopefully you can see. All right.
Now we see the paradigm shift, yes.
Okay. All right, so this is the superorganism where our cells comparison to the bacterial cells that cohabit us, and how that balance leads to health or disease. And please interrupt me if these slide transitions don't work. And then how the bacteria affect the variety of other states in our body: bone health, fat storage, vitamin production, how we actually metabolize medicine. And if I could take a second here, there's actually a study published last year where patients who were on cancer treatment, if they lacked a particular bacteria in their gut, that cancer treatment didn't work, And if we repleted that bacteria back, that cancer treatment started to work. So really profound effects of how the bacteria help us to function. There are many, many things that affect our microbiome. And so depending on how we're born, if we are born through normal vaginal delivery or C-section, you can actually pick that up on the bacteria, not only of the child, but even of an adult, to be able to look backwards in time and say, this person was likely born by vaginal delivery or by C-section. Where we're born is also very easily decipherable based on our gut microbiome. So an individual living in China who's eating a different diet than an individual living in Europe or in America will have different microbiome, a different abundance of certain bacteria compared to those areas. Of course, if we use antibiotics, that is an indiscriminate killer of all of our bacteria. So that can greatly alter the bacterial content in our body. And then aging, there is a senescence that occurs with aging, and that there are linkages that you can get premature aging effects because of the bacteria that are changing in our body. And certainly diet and exercise are actually beneficial for improving the right type of bacteria in our guts. There are many, many companies now that are in this space that are able to take a stool sample either by a swab or a collection in a vial and run a detailed analysis of the different species of bacteria that are in our gut. And some of these have come and gone, like Ubiome went bankrupt last year, but there are a plethora of new labs opening up every single day. And that really helps us to be able to broadly offer the ability to screen our microbiome more effectively. I preferably, in our practice, we use GI map because it gives a very clear panel of bacterial, both the good, the not so good, and the really bad bacteria, plus viral and other pathogens. But these are really more commercially available, and I would advocate for you to seek out this information from your doctor or from a provider who really specializes in this, because this is really valuable and gives us great insight in terms of how we manage our health. A couple of concepts that sort of float around with microbiome is how do we improve our microbiome if there is an alteration? If you suffer from chronic gut disorder where you have chronic bloating or pain or diarrhea or constipation, your microbiome is probably the more likely culprit than the food or other things that tends to get blamed. And IBS, which is a catch-all disease, likely is a foundational in microbiome disorder than anything else. And two things that we are using to help manage the microbiome are things that are called prebiotics and probiotics. And so the simplest way I could sort of put this, probiotics are good, healthy bacteria. They are the seeds that you ingest that allow to plant and grow good bacteria. And prebiotics are in our organic fiber type supplements that actually are like fertilizer. The good bacteria love these prebiotics, and they allow the good bacteria to grow. So there's many, many different types of this out there. The only downside to this is that if you're just indiscriminately taking a over-the-counter probiotic or prebiotic without actually doing an analysis of your microbiome, then you are effectively treating the unknown, because there are, as I mentioned, thousands of different species and over 30 trillion bacteria that live with us. Taking a few billion colony-forming units of an over-the-counter pill, which most of them are going to die with the acid in the stomach, are really not going to get you to where you need to get to if you're trying to heal your bacteria. So there's some more data is needed before trying out a prebiotic or probiotic on your own.
That's very interesting, Dr. Junaid. Thank you so much. So I read online and I attended another event as well where they were talking about gut microbiome being like a forest. right? It has a lot of different trees and different species, like you mentioned. And microbiome among people apparently varies significantly. So assuming that someone has less than optimal microbiome, number one, is it possible to improve it? I'm guessing it can be. And if it can be improved, how long does it take to heal it? And what's the process?
Yeah, so it is possible to improve it, and that's probably a great segue into what we do at Digby Health. And so at Digby, we are looking at not only the microbiome of an individual, but we actually also look at that individual's DNA. And based on those two data points, we're able to create an algorithm of food intervention. So we give folks what we call their superfoods to help promote the growth of good bacteria, to promote better diversity of that bacteria and return that person to health. In addition, a provider can also prescribe the right type of probiotic based on the deficiency that you're seeing in your microbiome report, as well as the right type of prebiotic to support that probiotic seeding properly. The time frame for this change is in the matter of months, and then there is a certain amount of maintenance that is required, because if you go back to your previous high processed, high fructose type of diet, or have high stress or other things that are interfering with your microbiome in the first place, then you're going to fall back in the same track. So there is some level of maintenance and maybe repeating of that data to look at how we're going to maintain that over time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Junaid. This is such an amazing content, and I'm sure there's a lot more you want to share and we want to hear, but because of the limited time, I'm going to move on to the next speaker, but great information. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Now let me invite Dr. Vivek Schoenberg to talk about gut health and immunity. So Dr. Schoenberg is going to add a few more perspectives on top of what Dr. Junaid has added. Dr. Vivek Schoenberg is MD of Ayurveda. He's a California licensed naturopathic doctor with 30 years of experience in Ayurveda as doctor, professor, and best-selling author. Dr. Schoenberg is the founder and director of a team of 6 integrative health experts at Natural Medicine Ayurveda Clinic and Academy in the Santa Ana area in San Jose, California. And he was recently awarded for excellence in clinical practice and teaching. Dr. Schoenberg, please take over.
Thank you, Praveen, for that very generous introduction. And thank you, Crack the Wellness Code team for inviting us to do this presentation. I'm very fortunate to be in company of a very educated and experienced professionals here. So I'm going to share a slide here
and while Dr. Schoenberg is bringing up the presentations, I want to encourage all of you to type your questions in Q&A box, and we will get to them in just a little bit.
So I'm sharing the slides, and then it should be.
Yes, we see your slide, fine.
Okay. So we'll be talking about gut health and immunity for dietary and wellness practices. And being aware of the short time that we have, I'd like to share certain dietary and wellness practices that people can start implementing right away as soon as this presentation is over. And Ayurveda has been talking about how to use dietary and wellness practices to improve immunity, which is discussed in the language of Ojas. So immunity is discussed in the language of Ojas in the Ayurvedic Sanskrit language, and gut health is discussed in the language of Agni. So I will talk about the dietary best practices for immunity or improving the Ojas. And specifically in today's time of compromised immunity causing to leading to pandemics, this is very important and practically necessary for us. So here are some dietary and wellness practices, and people are welcome to take a picture of the screen here. So at our clinic and also at our academy, this is what we have been recommending in terms of dietary practices for immunity. A simple thing like filling a thermos with pure hot water and taking sips of hot water every 30 minutes, which helps to keep the throat moist and prevents virus infections. The second thing we have been encouraging both our patients and students is to use culinary herbs or spices like turmeric, ginger, garlic while cooking their veggies or grains or lentils. And finally, like Dr. Junaid mentioned, to avoid sugar or sweeteners, processed food, deep fried foods, or saturated animal fats. These are some simple practices that can help boost immunity. Now, there are clinically proven and evidence-based dietary supplements that can be used to boost immunity. And we have seen excellent results with standardized extract of curcumin, which is an active constituent from our haldi or turmeric. Then tulsi, which is a very common herb in Asia. And finally, guduchi, which is also known as giloy. So these herbs have been used in Ayurvedic medicine and also various herbal traditions and natural medicine systems for thousands of years. In our clinic, we usually use them in the dosage of 1,000 milligrams each daily because they are natural immune boosters, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory. And currently, there are lots of clinical trials that are being published with how they are helping in boosting immunity or OJAS. For people who do include animal products in their diet, we usually recommend fish oil about 2,000 milligrams daily because it's an excellent immune booster and anti-inflammatory. Again, with common sense, okay, that we all know, for wellness practices to boost immunity, everyone has to exercise, maybe on an average at least 30 minutes daily, sleep at least 8 hours, and very important is some mindfulness or relaxation to manage the stress. One practice that has helped many of our patients is to gargle with 1 cup of hot water, to which you add half teaspoon sea salt and 1/4 teaspoon turmeric. So that hot water allows the extract of turmeric to be absorbed, okay, in the mucous membrane of the throat that spreads to the upper respiratory system and the lower respiratory system and prevents, okay, infections and boosts immunity. So those are some practical dietary and wellness guidelines that we have seen excellent results. I'll move on to the gut health now, which is this next slide. And again, I would encourage audience to feel free to take a picture of this slide so that they can review this information at some point. Now, gut health in Ayurvedic language is discussed in terms of Agni. And Agni is a term for all of the wonderful physiology that happens right from our lips all the way to our anus. So all of the enzymes, all of the gastric juices, the pancreatic juices, and the bile from the liver, and all of the millions of gut microbes, okay, that Dr. Junaid was speaking about, all of that is combined in this very gestalt approach of Agni. And to boost that normal flora, we have to use both probiotics and prebiotics. Now, you can use them in diet in the form of yogurt, buttermilk, and in our Eastern dietary traditions, there are low salt pickled veggies. Again, an important factor is the salt should be low and there should not be any sugar in these pickles. In other culinary traditions, people have used kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh as wonderful sources of probiotics because they provide lots of healthy organisms and boost the normal gut flora. Now, to help that gut flora nourish, you can use prebiotic foods like earlier mentioned banana, garlic, mushrooms, and onions. Of course, the dietary practice that is important for helping both probiotics and prebiotics is to minimize artificial sweeteners and sugar, processed food, and deep fried foods. We have seen our clinical practice, dietary supplements have important contribution to improving the gut health. And this is again evidence-based and clinically proven that extracts or standardized formulations of triphala, which are 3 different fruits, which are shown in the picture here. They are known as amalaki, bibitaki, and haritaki. It's very helpful in boosting digestion, reducing inflammation, and improving elimination of wastes and toxins. And along with that, 2 other botanical medicines that are very helpful, or dietary supplements that are very helpful, are bael and licorice. Finally, in wellness practices for gut health, we usually recommend intermittent fasting, where you can do 2 or 3 feedings during 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., about 8 to 10 hours, and then fast from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m., about 14 hours. And that usually helps in improving the gut health. Ayurveda traditionally is well known for its detox and rejuvenation protocols or treatments called as panchakarma. And I'll take only about a minute to share some information about this very well studied and well documented protocol called panchakarma, which is used for gut detox and rejuvenation.
And Dr. Schoenberg, can we finish it in
Sure.
30 seconds? Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a week-long program under guidance of doctors and nutritionists, and there are usually 5 steps that are used. One is mild fasting, then using nutritional supplements, using exercises and yoga, and then finally doing both upper and lower gastrointestinal detox with both Virechana and Basti therapies. So that's the presentation that I wanted to give. And we have had really good results with this, with our both immunity compromised and gut health suffering patients.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Schoenberg. And we have a lot of questions pouring in, and I'm going to start asking some questions. And feel free to, panelists, if there are specific questions that a single person has, feel free to answer those directly to that person, or share it with the audience as well. And one of the questions I'm seeing here is, Dr. Schoenberg, you can stop the presentation whenever you're ready.
I will do that.
And is the gut microbiome testing, etc., available in India? That's one of the questions from the audience.
I don't know which lab specifically I would recommend, but there are labs that do it. If you would like, I can research a few and we can send that out afterwards as a comment on our website, just so that there's a good recommendations. I know that there are labs that the GI map takes international samples, but you have to pay for postage. And there are a couple of really good labs in Australia that also do international packaging as well. But I hate to give a recommendation without properly vetting it first. So we can post that.
Yeah, thank you. And the next question is, does the gut microbiome vary from person to person by birth, age, season, or race?
All of the above. And really, you can make a fingerprint based on any one of those things. So if someone is where they're born, geography-wise, how old they are, there's a good amount of data now available that we can model someone. It is almost like a fingerprint to the individual. And as we get better and better with these analysis, we'll probably be able to identify individuals based on this as well.
Wow, that's impressive. The next question is, do processed Western foods destroy gut biome? Is Indian gut biome they were born with good for their health? And if so, what can Indians in the Western world restore? How can the Indians in the Western world restore their biome?
Yes, the processed foods do alter your gut biome, and in some ways for the worse, and actually make it more easier for us to gain weight. The traditional sort of village diet is likely superior because that's something that we have evolved over time to live with. But the traditional Indian diet that's in the city, it mimics much of what the American diet is now. And this is why we're seeing such rampant increases in obesity, diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease in India and in Pakistan and Bangladesh, because our genes are much more susceptible to these disorders with these insults.
Yeah, totally. I was in India, and my employees were so crazy about KFC and pizzas and all of that. It's they're youngsters. It's harder for them to understand even when we teach. So hopefully, this education will help them. So there's a question from a particular person, but I think this question would be applicable to many people. So I'll ask this. I'm someone who catches cold regularly, and I have a tendency to sweat a lot. What preventative measures can I take to fight my colds?
From an immunologist standpoint, up to 5 colds a year is deemed to be a normal number. It's a little higher than most, but if you're seeing more than that, then probably seek your doctor's attention. There's no medicine or treatment that has ever been effective in terms of prevention of colds. And so living your best healthy life, healthy weight, exercising is probably your best advice.
I think that also applies to some of the COVID things. So thank you for that. Dr. Schoenberg, this question is for you. How many times do you recommend gargling per day?
I usually recommend it twice a day, first in the morning after you brush your teeth, and that time you can do about 4 gargles from that half cup of hot water with half teaspoon salt and quarter teaspoon turmeric. And then you can again do it right before you go to bed, so that when you do it in the morning, that protects you throughout the day. And when you do it at night before you go to bed, it again creates a protection for you throughout the night. So those are the 2 times that I usually recommend.
Thank you. And next question is about Goduchi. Number 1, is it available in India? And there's another related question that asks, are the tablets, Goduchi tablets by Himalaya, good?
So Guduchi is a herb that is grown all over India. It's also called as Amruta, and it has heart-shaped leaves. So it is easily available all over India. In the Hindi language of India, it is called as Giloi. Now, people usually sell it as powder or capsule. I usually recommend standardized herbal extract, because then that way it gives you certain measured dose of the active constituents. And then I usually don't subscribe to any one particular company, as long as you do your homework and find out the good quality by doing the due diligence. So I recommend standardized herbal extract of Guduchi, or what is known as Giloi in Hindi.
Got it. Thank you for those. And there's another question. Do you recommend Neti practice, Dr. Schoenberg?
Neti is what is known as nasal lavage in this country, or nasal wash. It comes from the yogic tradition, and it is, if done properly, is very helpful for upper respiratory system, specifically for your nasal passages, okay, your sinuses, okay, and also your ear, nose, throat health. So if it is done properly, it's very helpful for preventing allergies, for preventing frequent colds, sinus congestions, and also headaches and migraines related to sinuses and nasal passages.
Awesome. There's so many questions. I hope I can get through all these, but let me ask you a few more, and then I'm going to jump to poll and give opportunity to other panelists. Dr. Junaid, this question I think is for you. you spoke about prebiotic. Could raw foods help prebiotic?
Yeah, prebiotics are typically raw foods, chicory root, there's inulin. There's a lot of types, but they're typically natural foods that are raw, that are not really digestible by our cells, but more digestible and promote good bacteria.
Awesome, thank you. So next, I'm going to launch a poll. Our goal is to help understand what topics have the most interest. So we have a list of 4 items here. Let me launch the poll. Please go ahead and answer. I encourage all of you to participate because we are doing this for you. The better we know about what your interests are, what your challenges are, the better we are able to put together programs to serve those needs. So please answer these questions. And I'm actually going to share the responses once it's done. Very good. 45% of you answered already. 57. That's one question. We should be able to do it faster, guys. Come on. Okay. That's 70%. 69, actually. Okay, 70. Okay, 5 seconds, and then I'm going to close the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending the poll. Okay, so that is the feedback. Thank you so much for that. While you guys are checking that poll results, I'm going to ask one more question, and then we're going to jump on to the next topic by Gayathri Schoenberg. Okay, actually, I'm looking at a few different questions here. Does gut microbiome influence mental health conditions like propensity and depression?
Yes, there is a linkage there. The broader term is the brain-gut pathway is altered. So the most amount of serotonin produced in our body, which is a happy chemical that we use, and that's where a common antidepressant medications, the SSRIs, really work, is on serotonin pathways in the brain. The most amount of serotonin that is produced is actually produced in the gut, and that gets absorbed in the bloodstream and influences the brain, as well as melatonin, which regulates sleep as well. So if you have an unhealthy bacterial count that does not adequately convert these natural amino acids like tyrosine into serotonin, then that can predispose you to a lower mood, and depression, and other psychiatric illnesses.
Awesome, thank you. By the way, I'm seeing that the number of participants has only been going up. Usually in webinars, we see people coming in and then dropping off. This has been continuously climbing up and it has not dropped. So that shows that there is a lot of wealthy information in here. So thank you guys. I really appreciate all the panelists. So next, I would like to welcome Gayathri Schoenberg. As you can see, she's the wife of Dr. Vivek Schoenberg. And Gayathri Schoenberg is a nutritionist. She actually has MS in nutrition. And she graduated from Bastyr, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, University from Seattle. She has been practicing as a nutritionist and diet therapy consultant for the last 28 years. And Gayathri taught Ayurvedic nutrition courses at Bastyr University, Whole Foods, and at Natural Medicine and Ayurveda Academy. Now, Gayathri is also a co-director of Natural Medicine and Ayurveda Clinic and Academy located in Santa Ana Row. I invite Gayathri now to share a cooking recipe.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Praveen, for that wonderful introduction. And, you already heard all information about how to practice a good gut health and boosting your immunity by Dr. Junaid and Dr. Schoenberg. Today, I'm going to give you what you can do at home, a very simple, very easy recipe that is being part of our Indian day-to-day life for ages. So as you know that after each meal or mainly the lunch, we have been in India and in Ayurveda that we recommend having a buttermilk to help you promote your digestion. That is also for with buttermilk is a very good source of a lot of good lactobacillus and bifidus. And I'm going to give you a simple recipe that you can do here with your full day's work. You can still do a simple recipe. Here you go. So this is for this summer right now, the herbal buttermilk for all body types. You take simple buttermilk, that is 4 cups of it, and add a little bit of ginger, which is very good anti-inflammatory and also is very good for digestion. And to that, I'm going to add coriander leaves mainly in summer because coriander is known for, one, promoting the digestion and also is very cooling for the summer months. And the next one is mint leaves. Again, mint leaves are known for cooling because outside is very hot. And buttermilk, the quality of buttermilk is a little bit of heating. To balance that, I'm going to add mint leaves and a little bit of sea salt. Put all of this in a blender and just blend it for 30 seconds and your drink is ready. That is like no need of cooking. And I just request everybody that, when you are doing any recipe with the buttermilk, yogurt, kefir, please do not cook that because when you cook it, there won't be any good culture left. So I want to make sure that this recipe is individualized for different body types. In Ayurveda, recommends about 3 body types, which is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So let's make that for each body type, what changes that, what specific spices that you can use to make it right for you for proper digestion. So if you are a Vata person, what that means is that people of this body type are relatively more cold, dry, and very fast. For them, use buttermilk or kefir made out of organic or A2, which is easy to digest milk. Or if you are sensitive to milk or lactose intolerance, then please use almond or coconut milk. That's also available nowadays. And then with that, you can also add some of the calming and digestive herbs like ginger, asafoetida, like hing or ajwain, so that will even make your digestion and absorption better. And then for the pitta body type, the pitta we explain in 2 words in Ayurveda, hungry and angry. So for the people of pitta body type are relatively more hot, reactive, and sharp. For this body type, yogurt, buttermilk, kefir, or any of that is very sour, means more acidic. So make sure you use freshly made, less fermented buttermilk so that it won't increase acidity and other issues. So make sure when you are using for pitta body type, use the cooling herbs like cilantro, mint, dill, so that balances their body heat. And for the last person, the kapha person who can look at any food and can gain weight, don't have to eat it, these people body types are relatively more heavy, slow, and moist. So use only buttermilk or kefir. Mainly the problem with the kefir is it is made out of whole milk, which is very calorie dense. So for that, you can either dilute it with the equal amount of water. That would be ideal for kapha. And then the best thing for kapha is that do not take buttermilk for dinner. Have it for lunch. It is very good for during the lunch time. So use the herbs that are drying for a kapha body type, whether it's garlic, fenugreek, curry leaves, ginger. You can also add ginger there. So make sure you find out your body type, use the specific herb for your body type, and make sure the important thing with the buttermilk is that nowadays people, you see the sweet mango lassi and sweet mango, the other fruit yogurts and all, that is really a very bad combination of using the buttermilk. Please, if you want to use the buttermilk for improving your gut health, then do not combine with any kind of fruit. Use mainly the spices which will help in your gut health, and also make sure do not add any kind of sugar or sugar substitute. Make sure you use salt, which is better for improving the gut health. So
That's
uh,
amazing.
yes.
Thank you, Gayathri Schoenberg. That's a lot of helpful information with such a common thing that we take in India, but when you come to America and other Western countries, you kind of forget and you don't take buttermilk as often. So that's very helpful. Thank you for that. You can stop sharing your screen whenever you're ready. So guys, there are so many questions. I want to get to all these questions, but I know time is limited. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have Dr. Sachin Deshmukh start his yoga practice along with Flute by Dan Magay. And then I'm going to actually follow up on all those questions. Here's also one of my recommendations. If you asked a question and if your question is not answered, please retype that question along with your email address. I promise to get back to you with an answer from the panelists after the webinar is done. But however, we're going to do yoga and flute first, and please stay towards the end. There are so many useful questions that are asked by people like you. So I think you're going to get a lot of benefit from it. So please type those questions along with your email address. With that said, let me introduce Dr. Sachin Deshmukh. Dr. Sachin Deshmukh is a yoga and Ayurveda expert. He was guided by Maharshi Mahesh Yogi. He's also an expert in meditation, mind-body, integrative health, and lifestyle modification. Dr. Deshmukh is affiliated with many esteemed organizations like ICC, YMCA, Hidden Villa, and others. He has also written books on fundamentals of Maharshi Ayurveda and back flower therapy. He also worked as an editor for 2 decades for a magazine dedicated to integrative modalities. And along with him, Dan Magay is an expert flute artist in modern and traditional jazz, classical music, Indian ragas, Brazilian bossa, and several other music specialties. Dan Magay is also an expert in saxophone, flute, and clarinet. Now I welcome Dr. Sachin Deshmukh and Dan Magay to perform yoga and flute.
As we are sitting for 1 hour, trying to move a little, especially with the pandemics like this, it's always good to move every hour or every 15 minutes. That's what the recommendations are. So usually the biggest message from the yoga and Ayurveda for us is that human body is built for movement, and the human mind is actually built for the bliss and the stillness. As you see now in the current age, it happens the opposite, that we sit whole day and our mind is spinning constantly, quite faster pace. I always say that we are in Silicon Valley, so everybody is running. And I made a story, this simple one. So the man went to the God and said, I have everything here, but I need patience, and give it to me now. So that now in yoga is the current moment. So let's close eyes for a second and then see what kind of thoughts come in our mind. So just the first 10 thoughts, we observe them.
Dr. Deshmukh, may I invite you to keep the microphone closer maybe, or speak a little bit louder?
Sure.
We can hear you fine, but the volume is a little bit lower. Can you speak now?
Yeah, can you hear now
Yes.
better? Yeah.
Yes, now it's better.
Okay. So let's take a break. So rub your palms, keep the palms on your eyes, pass it through whole of the face, then to the neck, to the chest, back, to the arms, forearms, then all the way to the toes. So we want to reach, rotate the shoulder forward, backward. So how many people have the thoughts which were regarding the past, and how many had about the future, and how many have about what's happening now? So that's just the idea of yoga is all about being connected with mind body working together, and then also doing things in the moment. So breath is a very powerful connector, and then it has the whole 8 limb process. So that means those limbs are integral part of a yoga practice. So yoga is not just practicing yoga on the mat, but it also our attitude, how we embody the natural principles, law of nature into our being. And the sense of being is, I know my me is not me, but I am something more beyond that. So we'll start with a pose called as the mountain pose. So you bring the palms all the way to the side of the body. So you feel expansive, and then you stretch it up. So in the frame you can't see, but my palms are like this, but stretched up. Arm behind the ear. So hold it chin parallel to the ground. So hold it for 5 to 15 counts, and then twist it to the side. Slowly bring them down, ease the body. So again, so more you press the palms together, so the more you release the shoulders and the neck area. So one more time, so we breathe in, so slowly we will repeat the same, and then we'll go to the side. So we'll go to the left, just go as much you can, and then we will come back, and then we'll go to the right. So hold it, so come back. We go all the way in the back, so we hold it, and then we slowly come forward, so hold it to the shoulder, and then slowly come back. So ease the body, relaxing, catch your breath. So do you feel a little better? Just moving a little bit. So that's really the magic of the movement. We'll also go through the little bit breath awareness, and then we'll end with little 1 minute silent meditation. So let's take a deep breath and close our eyes. Locate both the palms right at the junction of the upper and the lower half of our body. And then just watch your breath. So as we breathe in, so we pause. And then as we breathe out, so we pause. So this pause is really what activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which creates the relaxation response. It also helps us to stabilize our mental activity. So if our mind is moving, when we pause, it gives us opportunity to tune in what's happening. And there are a lot of distractions outside, but there is deep calmness which we can tap in within ourselves. We are using affirmation for this time. So is the positive, strong, and then calm and strong. So as you breathe in, so think positive. As you hold, think of strong. As you breathe out, so think of calm. And then again, as you hold, think of strong. So keep your body relaxed. Connect with your body. So to the toes, heels, knees, and the hips. Palms, wrists, elbows, and the shoulders. Lower back, middle back, upper back of the head, top of the head, whole of the face. Relax the chest, slide down to the belly, and just flow with the breath. So you breathe in, pause, breathe out, and then pause. You'll hear the music in the background. So just tune in the breath, tune in the music. If your mind wanders, keep bringing back to the belly or breath or to the affirmation. Thank you, Dan.
That is
So,
amazing. Thank you, Dr. Sachin Deshmukh and Dan Magee. You know, out of all these music instruments, I feel flute is one of the most calming, relaxing, and I think definitely reduces stress. So thank you for sharing this. I think it's amazing, and a great time to end the session. Sachin Deshmukh, any last points that you want to add? Feel free.
so the last thing what we want to do is we'll just do a quick body toning so it completes the
Okay,
process. So you
sounds good.
stretch your arm forward and then you just tap the body. So above and under, and then to the chest, in the back, and then all the way to the toes. Rotate the shoulder forward, backward, and then rubbing the palms. Pass it through whole of the face, very, very slow to the neck, to the chest, in the back, and then all the way to the toes. And the last message to take back with us is that the now is the current, and now is not the impatient. So any mind body practice, when you start, you have to give itself like 4 to 16 weeks to see the big transformation. And it's not important in the beginning what you do, but what's more important is why we do it. And that's what really makes the difference and the great foundation for our practice. So hope that will inspire you to make a change and start into your routines. Even yoga is not necessarily 1 hour on the mat. You can take 5 minutes every hour, 1 minute every hour, and things like that to make a change. And the last thing I would like to say, the Buddha said that if you don't have 5 minutes for meditation, you need 1 hour of meditation.
I think that's all of us. With that, thank you, Dr. Sachin Deshmukh, such a simple yet effective yoga practice. So with that, I would like to share with all of you that the next webinar in this series in collaboration with Thai Global is happening on July 25th. And I think this is very useful for all of us who are working, many of us in technology industry, where there's a lot of stress, anxiety, especially in the times of COVID, when people are worried about their health, their work, their finances, and things like that. And we'll have a great panel of experts. Again, this is going to be on July 25th. We actually moved the event half an hour earlier to 7 p.m. on suggestion by Mahavir Sharma. Great suggestion. We're going to make it easy even for the Eastern time zone people to attend. It'll be 10 o'clock, but we were trying to match with India time zone as well. So 7 p.m. here is 7:30 a.m. in India. So we want to make it available to as many time zones as possible. I just shared the link on the webinar chat. So if you can click on that link and register, I'm going to follow up with questions in just a minute. So let me share that one more time so that it is on your top of the chat. Okay, there it is again, the link. Please go ahead and register right now before you forget, because we are all busy. So we might forget. So let me move on to other questions. And some people were asking for contact information of the panelists. I am going to share it once I go through the questions. So please stay if you want contact information of the panelists. So let me pull up these questions here. So the next question, if I may, is how do we boost immunity to feeding babies and young children against COVID-19?
I don't think there's any data as of yet what is going to be protective for COVID at this point. The most important thing for kids, for young babies, is mother's milk. The antibodies that are passed through the mother to the child are protective against many different types of bacterial and viral infections. So my suspicion is that that's probably your safest and best bet, is to provide adequate nursing, at least through the first 6 months of life for a baby.
Thank you. And this question is related to ladies. And do we have any remedy for hot flashes related to menopause?
Ayurveda sees hot flashes as aggravation of pitta, or the heat metabolism caused by the hormonal transition that the ladies go through. And there are certain clinically proven herbs like shatavari that are used for this. And also another herb that is used and clinically demonstrated is ashoka. So those are very helpful. Here in the West, there is a nutritional supplement called evening primrose oil that also is used. So some of these are very helpful in that hormonal transition symptom of hot flashes.
Thank you. And the next question is, what is a good diet to follow to improve the brain-gut pathways?
I think certainly some of the things that Dr. Schoenberg's team has mentioned are really good recipes to adapt to your diet. Really, it comes down to understanding where your microbiome is at now in your life, what insults it has taken, what retained value there is. And so if you're interested in knowing where your microbiome is, do the test. And then using that data, we can create either a diet or other interventions to help improve it.
And there is no one standard good diet for everyone. It has to be individualized or customized for each body type. So the person has to understand what their physiological mind body type or how their biochemistry is unique, and learn about what diets are good for various body types and then follow those. So there is no one glove fits all.
Got it. Thank you. The next question is, I had to take antibiotics and amoxicillin due to tooth infection. I had diarrhea continuously. My concern is there antibiotic that is easier on the stomach? And if so, what do you suggest?
The antibiotic regimen has to be tailored to the bacterial infection that the individual is suffering from. So as I mentioned in the talk, antibiotics are really effective killers of all bacteria, both the good and the bad. And that's really the damage that is done when we use antibiotics too much or inappropriately. So certainly use antibiotics when you need them. Try not to get them when you don't need them. And if you are having effects secondary to those that are lasting, then that's something that a microbiome test will help us to determine and treat.
And then after the course of antibiotic, it's important to replenish the bacteria or replace the bacteria by using prebiotics and probiotics that we discussed here, using yogurt or kefir or low salt vegetable pickles, and then kimchi, or even using herbs like onion and mushroom, garlic, banana. Those can help in replenishing them.
Got it. Thank you. And I see a couple of, we are getting echo. I see a couple of people raising their hands. We have a lot of questions in the pipeline. So if you don't mind, and if you could just add your question, I'll get to them as soon as I can. I literally have at least 30, 40 more questions. I can't even count them. There is so much interest in people. I will thank you. Let me continue asking questions. So the next question is, can we use dosa, idli, daula, etc. as probiotic foods?
Sure, dosa, idli, and any fermented is really good. But depending on, once again, I want to go back and find out your body type and then do it. If you are a pitta person and if it is a summer month, both are heat and then outside is heat, then too long fermented food does affect you or bother you, or that might not be recommended. But dosa idli are a good source of B vitamin, as well as good for gut health.
One caution I would provide to people here in the West is that do not buy ready-made dosa batter that has been in the refrigerator of the store for 5-10 days, because that is over fermented and it will increase the acidity and cause you problems with either acid reflux or even gastritis. So freshly made dosa idli batters are in fact ideal ones. And then as much as possible, don't microwave those before you do your dosa or idlis.
That's very helpful. We don't even think about that. We look for convenience and we miss out on so much in the food that we are eating. Thank you for that. The next question is dairy good for you?
Is dairy good for you? It depends on if you are able to digest that. If you have good lactase, then sure, dairy is not at all bad for you. The best in dairy is still the buttermilk is known as best in dairy, or the ghee. For gut health, buttermilk is the best. So once again, depending on your body type, use the kefir or buttermilk. And for a person who can gain weight easily, dilute it and use it. Use it only during the lunch time, where you will be able to digest it before you go to bed in the evening.
And again, try to go for organic or A2, because the dairy industry unfortunately has come far away from natural practices, and as a result, a whole lot of transformation happens the more the processed the dairy is.
Thank you. So, Gayathri, what's the difference between Kapha person, Pitta person? How do I know who I am?
The best way to find out your body type is by doing the test, or by getting to know, by doing a consultation with the Ayurvedic doctor through their pulse, to their tongue. Complete evaluation of that person's body will get to know what your mind-body type is, which is Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And then after the mind-body type, because of your lifestyle, because of the environment, the stress, and the dietary habit, there could be imbalances, or in Ayurveda, we call it Vikruti. So then usually we recommend, that's how you find out your body type as well as your imbalance.
Another shortcut to get a just quick idea is, nowadays there are on internet a simple questionnaires to give you a preliminary idea. But if you have many health problems and symptoms going on, then the questionnaires don't help, and you usually need evaluation, and that evaluation is done in 8 different steps.
Thank you. And how do vegans increase their gut biome?
It's the food that we eat. It need not be dairy that the microbiome comes from. I think this is the lactobacillus, which is common in dairy, is not the only bacteria out there. It is one of the most common one out there, but that can also be found in other sources. So if you're a vegan, if you're a carnivore, you can still have a good microbiome. There's no one diet that leads to a healthy biome.
So with that, kimchi, which is all vegetarians, vegetables that are fermented, or kombucha, are the good source of vegan, for you to use. And then they can also use now fermented coconut water, which is pure vegan source.
Thank you. And I see that almost 75 to 80% of the people are still online. We are 16 minutes past the time, but the number of people staying on shows the interest. So I'm going to continue asking questions at least for 10 more minutes. So feel free to stay on and wait for your question to be answered. I cannot promise it because there's so many questions. Hopefully we can get to your question very soon. So let me ask the next question. What are mudras? How do they work? And what's the best mudra for lowering blood pressure? I don't know if that is related to gut biome or the topic today, but that's a question I just asked.
That's more of a yoga question. So mudras are using any body parts into a specific position and then creating the focus onto that area. So obviously there are many benefits of mudras, traditionally explained that different mudras reflect on different internal organs and they reciprocate certain response. So there is no specific mention like this mudra helps for this particular ailment, but these are the inferences drawn by practitioners or the logical database over a period of time. So we can't say this mudra is for blood pressure and this is for asthma. It's a common theme. There are basic mudras like Chin, Chinmay, Adi mudras. So they are like this, which we normally see yogis sitting like this, or like this, or like this, and things like that. So using any mudra is actually has the similar impact on your physiology. So it's really the calming down and focusing.
Got it. So the next question is, I've been told not to eat raw vegetables as it is supposed to be hard on the digestive system. How do I get my dose of prebiotic then?
In general, you should be eating raw vegetables unless you have a underlying gut disorder. So if you cannot digest raw vegetables, then we have to use supplements that have these prebiotics in there. And my slides, if when we share this, has some of those supplements in there that are good prebiotic sources.
Thank you. And are the resistant starches beneficial to gut microbiome? And if yes, how much time does it take typically for us to see the effect? And what is the recommended dosage?
Variable dosage depending on your need. Some effects are seen within the first dose. We tend to use a proprietary four blend that we call 4-biotic in our practice that we dose at nighttime because it increases production of serotonin and enables better sleep for most patients. Vivid dreams is a side effect that can be seen. In terms of migration of an improvement in microbiome, that can take weeks to months before you see that change on a report.
Thank you. And the next question, is the Indian kanji helpful? How to make, how much to consume?
Indian kanji is very helpful for digestion. If you have a digestion issue, you're not able to digest properly, then kanji during illness, fever or anything, we usually recommend kanji because it's easily digestible. At the same time, it will give you very good nutrients, B vitamins. If you use the whole grain, not the refined grain, then you will get nutrients from kanji. Kanji is basically you cook whether it is rice, whether it is millet, finger millet, which is called as ragi. You can cook it with extra water, and basically you don't waste the extra water that you cooked, and you take that so that you'll be able to digest and get the nutrient faster.
Thank you. And the next question, I always have stuffy nose and constipation. Went through several tests, but nothing came out. I'm looking into Ayurvedic practices now, so looks like I have kapha and vata imbalance. Can microbiome test help me identify the food that is causing these conditions?
I think the microbiome analysis will help us identify the bacteria that are abnormal, and then and that can help improve the constipation piece. Most microbiome tests are gut-based tests, and we know that the nasal passages have their own microbiome as well. There are no commercially available microbiome tests for our nasal passages. So there are some that are in development right now that we are looking forward to utilizing, because that can help people who have chronic nasal issues that are negative on allergy testing and really are requiring antibiotics to manage. So yes, you can do some testing for the stomach, and yes, you can improve that to help improve the constipation.
Thank you.
Kapha and Vata, when somebody has both Kapha and Vata aggravation, it means there is an increase of the cold quality in that person. So they then should be focusing more on having warm foods, sipping warm water, and also using warming culinary herbs like ginger and black pepper in their diet, and that can help both your sinuses as well as your constipation by rebalancing your Kapha and Vata.
Thank you. And do you do microbiome testing on kids? Is that recommended?
You can do it on kids. If I could take a second, my family went to Bali. My son ate some strawberry shake and had chronic gut issues for weeks and weeks and weeks afterwards, and just wouldn't eat as much. So we actually ended up doing a GI-MAP test on him, and with the right prebiotic probiotic mix, actually restored his gut to health, and everything went back to normal. So absolutely,
wow.
There's value.
Awesome. So there's a comment and a question. Since eating a whole food plant-based diet, I barely ever get cold, less than once a year. Is 5 colds annually a real average?
What was the question? I didn't quite understand that.
So do people get 5 colds per year on average?
No, that's the typical max that we would want, that we tolerate before we start asking questions. Is there an immunodeficiency present or not? And then there's a slew of tests that are needed to identify that immunodeficiency. So that is a rough north of normal that you should consider as okay, but there's some qualifications. If you're having real severe infections that require antibiotics over and over again, then that certainly also requires some investigation in terms of what is going on with your immune system that is predisposing you to getting infections.
And I'm one of those beneficiaries. I used to get cold multiple times, certainly more than 5 times a year. I changed my diet about 6 years ago, and now I rarely get cold, maybe once, if at all. So, yeah. The next question is, can diabetes be controlled with a diet that supports microbiome and Ayurveda?
Definitely, diabetes can be managed and kept under control with basically 3 factors: is a proper diet for your body type, a very regular exercise, and then using proper food supplements, culinary herbs, and botanical medicines. So with these 3 proper balance of diet, physical activity, and natural medicine, you can keep it under control.
Thank you. And the next question, does ginger lemon warm water drink break intermittent fasting? So let's say in the early morning, they're taking water with ginger and lemon. Does it break intermittent fasting?
Ginger lemon water, since it is very low in calorie, I would not say it will break the intermittent fasting. If you add a ton of sugar to it, or if you add a ton of honey or maple syrup to it, then I would say you have broken the intermittent fasting, because you gave so much of kapha increasing or calorie increasing sugars in there or sweeteners in there. Otherwise, if you're just having a glass of ginger lemon water, that is not breaking intermittent fasting.
Thank you. And the next question is it okay to eat raw vegetables thoroughly washed, particularly as we become old and people with less immunity? Is there any suggestions to eat these veggies for people who are old and have less immunity?
There are cruciferous vegetables which are usually not recommended to be eaten raw. So this is like cauliflower or broccoli. Those for older people who have lesser digestive enzyme secretion and overall their systems are drying, they should go into more cooked and steamed vegetables. If you have leafy vegetables or if you have other non-cruciferous vegetables that can be digested, specifically those who have a lot of enzymes in them, there is no problem.
And the next question is, are there authoritative websites or books on which we can learn more about gut microbiome?
Because the field is so new, there isn't one comprehensive place, and the data is changing very quickly. So by the time it gets published, there's already additions and addendums in place. So I could not recommend one particular source that is an authoritative at this point.
Thank you. And next question is for Dr. Junaid. How do we start testing our gut microbiome? And what happens after we send our bowel samples? Do we get analysis by doctors like you? Do we get recommendations of dosage and strains of bacteria, prebiotic or probiotic, that we should take?
Yeah, this is typically ordered by a physician where we have kits in our office, or the companies deliver the kits to the patient's house. We order it. Some of these are covered by insurance, some are not, and they're out of pocket. After you get the report back, it does require interpretation and a treatment plan. And that interpretation is really based on a consultation with your provider, because we need to understand what clinical symptoms we are trying to link with the microbiome. And that will determine what outcomes we're trying to improve.
Got it. And this question is again to you, Dr. Junaid. Do kids born in the Western countries like America to parents of Indian origin have reduced gut microbiome compared to kids born in India?
Yeah, kids born in this country are basically, Indian kids born in this country are equivalent to any other child born in this country, because the parents are effectively eating a diet that is more Americanized. There are higher rates of C-sections in this country as compared to India, plus especially if you start with formula and the other diet that a typical child would get in school will effectively turn their microbiome into an American microbiome.
So is it recommended that we continue to follow Indian diet after moving to America?
Not necessarily, because it depends on how processed your diet is. If you are living the city Indian life in America, then that's basically an effective Western diet. If you are going farm to table, growing your food, eating it fresh, not nuking it in microwaves, all of these things that we tend to do living in a westernized world, that diminishes the value of the food and its impact on the gut.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have at least 20 more questions. It's been half an hour extra. There are at least 60% more, but I'm going to take a break. I want to honor the time you have given us. You've given us 50% more time than promised, panelists. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to share, there are multiple people who have asked for contact information of the panelists today. So here you go. I have given you the websites. You go to the websites, you'll find all the information and also phone numbers of each of the panelists here. For Dan Maggie, you can search for Dan Maggie Music on Facebook. The first page that comes up is Dan Maggie's. So I do have more questions. I'm going to follow up with panelists after the event is done. And if you have provided your email address, I'm going to send a response back to you. Again, I did not introduce myself. My name is Praveen Nara. I am a co-coordinator of events at Crack the Wellness Code, and I'm also a founder and CEO of Tech.us. It has been such a pleasure moderating the session with such an amazing panelists. I look forward to doing more sessions, and I'll see you guys on July 25th. Hope you have registered for the next event. If you have not, please do. Again, thanks everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Praveen, for wonderful coordination and wonderful arranging of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you. Bye.